Hey.
Hello.
It's a Scottish person.
Hello, hello.
Wait,
Hello,
hold
hello.
on. Ryan didn't tell us that.
Yeah. Gotta go.
Oh, well, bye then.
This is the AT Banter podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter. Wait for it. Geez, I got to get my banter in there before you go wailing on that thing, Ryan.
It went flying across the room.
Yeah, I think that was a swing and a miss there, mostly.
Yeah.
No, it was hard on the side.
Really? Then it was so hard that it clipped the sound. Okay, let's try it one more time. Can't even get the intro right. Fire. Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
See, that was perfect, you guys. That was perfect.
Third time's a charm.
That's right. My name is Rob Minot. Joining me today, Mr. Ryan Fleury
Hello.
and Mr. Steve Barclay.
Good day, y'all.
You know what I find? Now that we're not in the same room anymore, well, I mean, I guess virtually we're in the same room. We're in the Anti-Gloom Zoom Room. But no, I mean, not being in the same physical space, I find that I screw the introductions up a bit. Like, I used to have an order because I'd be facing Steve, and I would be like, introduce Steve, and then I'll go over and introduce Ryan. And now that we're doing this virtually, it's kind of like just, it's random every time. I just don't have that visual cue. It's weird.
Yeah, you know, it was actually random when we were in the room together,
I
too.
feel like I had a format. Although, I don't know, maybe I'm just wistfully romanticizing the memories of the Guitar Dungeon.
There was no romance in the Guitar Dungeon.
Not while I was there, anyway.
No, I don't know. It is weird. Have you guys been doing that? Like, do you just kind of wistfully remember the days of, like, going to a pub?
Not really.
No?
I went to a pub. I went to a pub last week.
Really?
Last weekend.
What was it like? Did they have, like...
It was it was very well thought out. They had a station that when you went in, you had to wash your hands at the station. They seated you. They stayed socially distanced from you for as much as they could. They had cut back the number of tables in the pub so that the tables were really well spaced. Now this, fortunately for them, they had a really large floor plan, so they had room to do it. You couldn't necessarily do that in a smaller pub, but yeah, it was good, and they made sure that when they brought us our bill, that they took down a name and phone number from somebody at the table, so that should they ever have an outbreak, they can do the social tracing.
Oh, yeah.
Chase them all down. So yeah, it was a really it was a good opening for them, and they're it was nice to get out and sit down and have somebody bring me beer and food and just hang out for a while.
Did you feel, like, nervous at all? Or?
No, not at all.
Really?
Not at
Yeah.
all.
See, I don't know. I don't think I'm ready for that yet. I feel like I would just be on edge, even though, clearly they're doing everything they can. It's just, I don't know. I think I would just, at the end of the day, I'd just be like, I just should have just ordered, skip the dishes, and
All right,
ate
that's
on my balcony.
this week.
That's it for COVID this week.
Move on.
All right, fair.
Fair enough. Hey, Ryan, we got a
Rob.
big show today, so tell people what the heck we're doing.
Well, today we are speaking with host and creator of Double Tap, the podcast on AMI, Double Tap TV, and he is the one and only Steven Scott.
Cool.
Very cool. This is a big player.
Yeah, I'm excited to get him on. You know, I listen to Double Tap podcast and watch Double Tap TV from time to time when I'm available. And you know, there's a lot of great content, and he's very well spoken, energetic, enthusiastic, and it's just a lot of fun. So I'm glad we could get him on.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right. Well, you know what? Speaking of that, I don't want to waste too much time talking about much else because I really want to get Stephen on. Anything that you guys want to talk about before we launch in?
Next week is National Accessibility Week.
Woohoo.
That's all.
And we have nothing to say about that.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about previous shows. You know, we need to start looking ahead at these things, right?
Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
last week was Global Accessibility Awareness Day.
Man, see, all these weeks and days, there's so many of them, they're very hard to track, I will say that.
Yeah, there's probably a calendar of these events somewhere.
I wonder who picks, who gets a day and who gets a whole week? Who picks? Like, is there a committee? Is there a board? Can we get an AT Banter Appreciation Day?
I think we started the show, I think it was about May 15th or 16th of 2016. So I think that week of May every year is going to be AT Banter Week.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Good plan.
Good plan.
Yeah.
All right. Let's submit it to the board.
Which board? I am the board.
I don't know. Whoever. Fine.
Accepted.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passed unanimously.
Boom.
Yay.
These board meetings are easy.
Super.
All right. Well, listen. If nobody has anything, let's get right to it and bring on Stephen.
I'm already here. Oh, you want another one? Okay, sure.
Yes.
Hey,
'cause
wait.
You can never have
Is-
too many Stevens.
Is this some sneaky way of upgrading your Steve?
No.
No, it's not possible. You
Steve
You are-
2.0.
the one and the only Steve.
We're upgrading from Steve ME to Steve. What was after ME? Was that 95? Or no, was it 95 and then ME? Where did ME fall in that?
After 98.
Yeah, it was after 98.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. My memory's starting to go.
Going straight to Steve 2000.
Joining us now is Stephen Scott from Double Tap TV and the Double Tap Podcast. Introductions. All right. So, Stephen, joining me in the Zoom room is Rob Minot.
Well, hello there.
We have Steve Barclay
Hello again.
and myself, Ryan Fleury. Guys, joining us is Stephen Scott from Double Tap TV, Double Tap Canada, and where else? Royal National Society for the Blind, Circles Media. He's everywhere. He's everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I'm everywhere. I'm all over the place. I think that's a compliment.
Hello.
Hello.
That's one of the best introductions I've ever heard him do, incidentally. So you should
honored.
feel very honored.
I'm honored.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen. Thanks for taking some time and chatting. We know that the time difference is a little brutal over there. It's what?
Yeah.
It's I think Tuesday of 1987 over there, isn't it?
Oh, it's more like 1975, I think, or maybe that's just the social status. I'm never quite sure in this country. It changes every day.
So yeah, well, why don't we start out and just give us a little bit of your trajectory? Where did you first get involved with the RNIB?
Well, the RNIB was an interesting one for me because I started out with, going way back to, as a child, as a poor, defenseless child, it was all about being a TV cameraman. That was what I wanted to be. That was what I loved television. I loved the idea of being a TV cameraman. I used to make TV cameras out of big boxes. It was ridiculous. And the obsession grew to the point where someone said to me at the age of 14, okay, well, we'll take you to a TV station and we'll let you try it out. And I tried it and it was boring. I really found it boring and I couldn't see anything. So it seemed pretty pointless in some ways. So I thought this career is not going to go anywhere. And then a friend of mine introduced me to a blind guy who ran a hospital radio station, which a bit like, I guess, like college radio elsewhere in the States and Canada is very much, college radio you might start in. Well, hospital radio is the big thing here, at least it used to be. And I got into that, and then I got into commercial radio, and I worked in talk radio for a long time, did talk shows, and did the music stuff, introducing Rihanna or whatever was a hit in the early 90s and early 2000s. And off I went and into this weird world of commercial radio. And then, strangely, this program controller came in one day and he said to me, we want to take you off air because your voice is too serious for our fun, upbeat show, which I thought was just hilarious. But they thought it was a good idea. So they put me in news. And I fell in love with doing the news. I just thought this is brilliant. Bringing people information that's interesting to them. I get far more personal response, not so much about me, but about the stories. And I just felt it all just felt a bit more valuable than just sitting playing Rihanna. So then I saw an ad for RNIB, which was called at the time VIP on Air. Terrible name, and they had this name for this channel, and I thought, okay, what's this all about? There was an internet radio station at the time, and it was the RNIB that were behind it, and the local city council was paying for some money into it, and it all seemed very worthy. And I wasn't particularly keen because I thought, well, I'm working in commercial radio. Do I really want to move away from commercial radio to go to this internet radio? I mean, it was all very new then, and I thought, right, okay, what do I do here? Do I do this? And then the management of the radio station changed because I heard that our guy who used to run one of Scotland's biggest commercial radio stations went off to run this radio station. So I thought, well, hang on a minute. If he's running it and he's a good guy, then maybe I should consider this. Maybe if he's thinking it's okay, then I could think it's okay. So I went along, I had a chat with them. And then a couple of months later, I got a job interview and I got it. And suddenly I thought, okay, I'm now in a weird position because I'm getting paid, kind of real money in a real job, not just, under the fence over the whatever. And it was all very nice. And I kind of fell in love with it. And I've been there now for, coming up on 14 years.
Wow.
And I've never thought I'd be there that long. I'm sure they think the same. But I never thought I'd be there that long. But yeah, that was it. That's how I got into the whole world of RNIB. So it was kind of because of my past, in a sense, that drew me to it. It was that sort of fusion between visual impairment, my own experience, and radio. I just thought, well, I can bring a whole host of different things to this. And, well, I'll let them decide whether it worked or not. But, I think it did.
So that's now called RNIB Connect Radio, is that correct?
That's right. It moved on. It became Insight Radio for a while, and then it became, it was a much better name, and then RNIB Connect Radio, which was just a really great sort of build into the brand because, the radio station wasn't truly part of RNIB when I joined it. It now is, so it made sense to be branded that way. And it's just really cool. It's great to work with a bunch of people who are also blind and partially sighted, and sighted guys and girls as well, who, really all just chip in and bring some great stories to air every single day.
What is your eye condition?
It's terrible. That's what it is. So I'm really lucky because I've got 4 eye conditions. I'm so pleased about that. I mean, am I beating all you guys? Because, I think this is cool. Yeah,
definitely.
It's a great game, isn't it? How many eye conditions do you have? Well, for me, it's 4. Let me go through them. So really boring. Optic nerve hypoplasia, which basically means my optic nerve never developed properly as a young child. I've got nystagmus, which I don't really understand what nystagmus means to me. I mean, I know it causes movement of the eye, and it does affect a lot of people's vision. For a lot of people who only have nystagmus, you might not be able to drive, that kind of thing. But coupling it with the optic nerve problem seems to have created more issues, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But there's that. There's a photophobia, which doesn't mean I'm terrified of myself in a picture, although arguably I am. But no, actually, it's about light, essentially, light sensitivity, as you guys all know, and color blindness, which is great. So yeah, mix all that together and you get a big blurry black and white mess.
The jiggles.
Yeah, and the jiggles to go with it. Yeah, the world just constantly shifts around. Yeah, I mean the thing was, my vision got a lot worse in the last 4 years, and I think that's where things have kind of changed for me in a lot of ways. And listeners to Double Tap or Tech Talk will know that I've been doing this. I've been almost bringing the listeners with me on this because I've kind of needed them as much as they might say they enjoy the show and all the rest. I think I've needed them more over the past few years because learning JAWS, for example, learning how to use VoiceOver on the iPhone and trusting it to do it and not constantly trying to use what vision and poor vision I've got left is a real challenge. Learning Braille over the past couple of years has been interesting. So, it's just been a whole kind of whirlwind, almost like I feel like I've been dipped into the sea of blindness. And I'm embracing it, like some kind of evangelist, which is in a way feels kind of good. It's almost like I'm joining the dark side. And yeah, I mean, before that it wasn't, and I now know this, it wasn't anywhere near as bad as I thought my vision was, that's for sure. I thought my vision was pretty bad then, but wow.
It's interesting because we talk to a lot of people who, are dealing with that transition from partially sighted to blindness and just kind of reaching that point where is, 15, 16 times magnification actually efficient and working for you, or do you take that and learn a screen reader, right? So
yeah,
interesting to hear your story.
So what was that experience like for you starting down that path of assistive technology? Were you really surprised at what kind of technology was out there and in existence, or did you have a sense of that before?
I had a sense of it for a long time because in my school days I was around a lot of other blind people who were using all kinds of tech like Braille tech and desktop video magnification and screen readers, although early days screen readers. And yeah, I mean it was there and I was aware of it, but I was able to sort of get around a lot of it by, and I now realise looking back, I used to always think as a kid that I just sort of skirted through things, just kind of got past them and, maybe passed an exam but really didn't know why, because, I had barely done any revision for it, or if I had, it, didn't make any sense to me because I never got through the whole book I was meant to get through. And that was interesting because, when I look back on it, I realised it was all vision related. I just couldn't see the book. So I maybe just thought of myself as skimming through it, but actually I wasn't getting very much information at all, although how the hell I passed my hires and my education is beyond me for that reason. So, but when the technology sense, I got used to using all of this, or used to being around all, I should say. Actually, that's more truthful. I was more around the tech than I was using it. I used CCTVs, or desktop video magnifiers as they are now. Used those a lot, and that was basically how I did all my studies. And then at the age I was at school, we got PowerBooks in at that point, and it was the one that was the first PowerBook, one of the first ones out, I think, and it was the 140, which had a big ball for a mouse instead of a trackpad. So you had a big ball right below the keyboard, and you had buttons. It's kind of similar to what you have now, I suppose. And yeah, it was a wonderful little machine, and I did all my schoolwork on that, and all the text was up at 48 point. And anybody who if I wanted to save a file, I'd have to do it by getting somebody else to do it because none of the menus spoke. So I just had to get someone else to say, "Excuse, could you save this file for me?" or whatever it was. But yeah, that kind of technology was around me. I guess in the last 4 years, because I've started using a lot of this technology, it really has changed my view on not only the technology itself and what it's capable of, but also the validity of it. I often used to talk, and I remember talking for years on air about the cost of specialist technology versus mainstream. Why should you buy a Victor Reader Stream when you can just do it all on an iPhone? But then when you start to use a Victor Reader Stream and you start to rely on it and you start to lose enough vision that using an iPhone is challenging to do those basic tasks or those things that you can do very quickly with a Victor Reader, like enjoy a book and skip through it nice and easily, enjoy it without any notifications popping up all over the place and having to get rid of those and voiceover talking all over everything. That's when you start to see the value in it. And I don't think I ever realized that until it hit me. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of people who lose their sight. I've just had a much longer period to adjust to this. Even though the past 4 years have been fairly rapid descent, the previous umpteen years have been a case of, a slow progression to this point and kind of catching little bits, almost like walking up the aisle of assistive tech every single day and going, oh yeah, okay, this is all here. Yeah, I'll never need it, but yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, okay. And then suddenly it's like, God, I need all this stuff. And yeah, it's shown me the value of it for sure.
Well, you bring up an interesting point, and that's something that I think, sometimes forget. For many years, we've been talking about things like screen readers and that are bundled in with operating systems, and the fact that mainstream and assistive technology are kind of merging a bit, where more mainstream technologies have built-in accessibility. But you kind of forget that there is a real advantage to having a device that is completely dedicated, because it can eliminate all those like superfluous things or features that either get in the way or you're not going to use, and it can be a very focused device. And for a lot of people, that combined with the ease of use and the fact that it is designed to say for somebody who's visually impaired, that can be a really big plus that a mainstream device never is going to have.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I almost wish sometimes I could get a computer that was just built for blind people. And you could probably tell me there is something out there that does it. But what I mean by that is something that is just a simple arrow up, down, left, right. Email 1, 2, 3. It could be number 1 is send an email. Number 2 is search something on Google. Number 3 is just something really, really simple. And there are products like that. I mean, there's one from the UK called Dolphin Guide, which is exactly that. Actually, it's a very simple, easy to use system. And at first, I used to always kind of laugh off those things as being a bit childish in my first computer. And I thought, would I want to use that? I mean, would I encourage someone else to use it? But when you start to realize, well, it is built purely for blind people, and you don't have all that annoying notification nonsense and all this other superfluous stuff that you have on screen, and you can just get to what you need to really quickly, it does make things easier. I don't know how you guys feel about this, and I often try and get people's views on this on the show, but I sometimes wonder what your thoughts are on things like screen readers, because I feel it is just added on. Whatever way you look at it, no matter whether it was built from the ground up along with the operating system itself, or whether it's been added on later or improved over time. And we all know I'm talking here about voiceover on the Mac and a narrator on the PC. But on those specifics, I just feel it's always an add-on. And it always feels like an add-on, because you get things like Windows 10, for example, pop-ups just show up telling you of a notification, and it's like, how do I get to that notification? Where is it? And now it's gone. Oh, well, that's that then. I wanted to read that email, or I'd like to read that message, or where the hell is it? And with all that going on, you think sometimes it is accessible, yes, but usable, well, maybe 80% of the time.
Well, yeah, and it is interesting because I don't get the sense that, because I think you're absolutely right. I think that in terms of development, it very much is an add-on, because you have a completely different group who are working on the accessibility features, say, of Windows. We'll pick on Windows.
Okay. I'm cool with that.
They develop the operating system, and then they have the accessibility team who are working on, say, narrator that is going to tie into the operating system. But it's still not being developed it's not all being baked together. There still have these elements that, are just an add-on to the operating system. And I think that shows up in things like notifications and stuff where they didn't think it through in terms of, okay, well, great. How does somebody intuitively who has a visual impairment get to that notification? And it's things like that at the the development level, you can kind of tell that essentially it still is a little bit of an add-on.
Keep in mind though too that it's only been the last 5 to 7 years that Microsoft has actually had a pretty big push on accessibility and including functional accessibility into their products. JAWS has been around 20, 25 years. NVDA has been around 10, 11 years. We have to give Microsoft some credit, though, for giving us an out-of-box experience that is actually usable. Now, of course, that's in quotations and with caveats, because what's usable to me isn't necessarily usable to somebody else. But, we are getting there.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that. I mean, I think I always like to knock Microsoft, and I like to knock Apple as well, actually, because Apple don't have it right either. And I think the interaction system with Apple's VoiceOver on the Mac is just such a nightmare to get your head round. Once you get there, it's okay, but still sometimes you're navigating around, and you're thinking, where is this? And you go, oh, hang on, I've got to go into this group first. Right, okay. And then, you get there. Whereas, Windows in that respect is a little bit simpler because you can get through more, and arguably Narrator gets into the menus and digs a bit deeper than even JAWS can in some cases. Not all the time, but sometimes. And actually the thing about Microsoft, I will say, is that they've put a huge amount of effort in, especially in the last couple of years. I know you're saying that kind of 5-year period, but I'd say even shorter period than that. Certainly in the last 2 years, I mean, Narrator really has been pushed. And huge strides have been made to make it a more functional screen reader. Even a simple thing like, adding in the ability to do your insert F7 for links and things like that, just bringing it in line with the other screen readers. That's a brilliant thing. Because what I like about that is that if you use JAWS, you can use Narrator. It's not the same, but it's not dissimilar. You can figure it out. And I really like that about it. The one thing I find about Apple is, to knock them now for a while, is that they only have one screen reader. You only get one choice, which I've never really understood. No one's ever come up with a second one that I'm aware of. And maybe you don't need to, and that's fine. But I don't know, there's no competition on that side, whereas on the Windows side, you've got NVDA, you've got JAWS, you've got Narrator itself, you've got all that lovely stuff. But no, it's a really interesting thing because I've found using all kinds of these operating systems. I mean, I'm obviously testing a lot of stuff for the show. Apple's the one I've settled on, Apple's VoiceOver on the Mac, because a couple of reasons for that. Just because of my workflow more than anything else. I use Windows all the time as well. So what I've done is I've bought myself a fairly decent MacBook Pro, which can run a VM. And so I've got virtual machine running, VMware Fusion running with Windows 10, and then I can switch to that. And that's partly because one thing I haven't done yet is learned how to use another audio editor without Vision. The only one I can use without Vision is Adobe Audition version 3, which is really old and will stop working at some point. So I'm going to have to learn Reaper or Audacity or something really, really soon. But at the moment it's Adobe Audition, and I run that on the Windows side. So that's how I function. But I actually prefer to live on the Mac side. But that's because I'm an Apple guy. I don't mind saying that. I'm an Apple guy. Everything I have is Apple. I've even, I just bought myself a charging mat in the shape of the Apple logo. That's how pathetic I am. But I love it, and I love the way that you can sit and do your text messages on it. You can FaceTime or just call someone on it. I can be working on one thing on Mac and doing a Zoom call on the Mac side and working my Outlook on Windows. I mean, it's a brilliant system for that. But I do like Windows as well. I don't dislike it. The one I find most challenging is Chrome. Chromevox, which is that's a work in progress for sure.
Oh yeah.
It's a little bit early in the day maybe to be knocking them, but compared to where everyone else is, it could be better. and there are some basics that are missed on it. But it's okay. It's navigable, but it's not perfect. But I mean, there are lots of inconsistencies with screen readers, and I find this especially with Apple, because so I love the iPhone, love using it with a keyboard. More recently, a Braille display, and I love using my Mac. But if I go to my iPad, I find the experience totally different. Certain commands don't work, or certain commands don't travel the same. So a keyboard command I might use on one won't apply to the other. I still don't understand why Command Tab only works on the iPad and not on the phone, because it'd be brilliant to run that on the phone. It'd be so much easier than having to use the app switcher. But it's just those little things that kind of pop up, and you think, oh, I wish that was available there, and why is that different here, and how does that work? You've got to relearn everything all the time, and that's one thing I don't understand, considering Apple's sort of universal design theory. But no, it's an interesting time, and I think the good thing is, out of all of this, we've got so much choice. We do have so much choice, and you can try things out. If you've got a computer, you can turn on Narrator. Don't need to go and buy it, spend a fortune on JAWS. As good as JAWS is, and I do like it, and I use it for work, would I pay for it? Probably not. I'd probably get NVDA. But that's just where I am. But it's like I say, there's plenty of choice.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the on the Apple side, you mentioned that there's no other screen reader available for it. ZoomText tried coming out with a Mac version a while back, and it just didn't go anywhere. Nobody really bought it. And I think that when people do get into Mac, in a lot of cases, they are doing it because they already know that the accessibility is in there, and they're not even going to consider another product, even though, the ZoomText for Mac probably had some features that, the built-in magnification doesn't have. It just, for the average user, it just wasn't worthwhile.
Yeah.
And backing the truck up a little bit, I mean, and this isn't just because we're trying to get Jenny Fleury on the show or anything, and that we're trying to butter Microsoft up or anything. But yes, absolutely, you have to give them credit for for accessibility becoming much more of a priority for them. I just mean in terms of the development cycle and the fact that the idea of universal design and inclusivity really needs to sort of trickle down to that development level where they're figuring out the actual nuts and bolts of, say, an operating system and going, okay, well, how can we design this that it's accessible right from the get-go, as opposed to we're going to develop something and then, we've got this accessibility team over here that's going to figure out how to actually make it accessible.
Well, it is the problem that you have the team. That is part of the problem, isn't it? The team are over here, and you've got all the other guys working over here, and they don't meet. It's almost one's mopping up the other's mess, and that's not ideal. On your point, though, about knocking Microsoft and Apple or not knocking them, I think that's a really important point, actually, because one thing I've always done is try to be as fair as I can. If something's terrible, I'll say it's terrible, but actually, I would never, ever say that Microsoft have done anything terrible, or Apple have done anything terrible, or Google have done anything terrible with Chromebox. I mean, they're trying, and the thing is, I get knocked for this sometimes. People say, oh, well, they should do more than try if they want us to use their products. And yeah, okay, that's fair to a point, but I think we should be encouraging these companies. And I feel what I do and what I think you guys do and what a lot of podcasters out there are doing is try to highlight the issues, but in a really constructive way. And I think that's important, because it isn't about knocking them. If anyone does knock them, I'm not going to listen to them, because that's to someone to say this is terrible. Well, that's to say Windows 10 is terrible, and I heard that a lot when it came out, was ridiculous. It was like, oh, a whole operating system's useless. Wow, that's quite an assertion to make. Of course it isn't. There's maybe one flaw somewhere or a couple of flaws somewhere, and they'll fix it in the next release. But you've got to tell them what the problem is, because they may have missed it. So I always say to people, get in touch with the company, whatever product you have or whatever issue you have, get in touch. And Google's a great example of this, actually, because Google are now on Be My Eyes and on the app, and I can go in there. And I had a problem a couple of weeks back. I was trying something on my Chromebook, and I couldn't get it to do it. So I thought what I'll do is I'll contact Google, see if they know the answer. Turned out that what I was asking it to do had changed, that the whole key commands thing had changed. And the website from Google was wrong, the accessibility side. So they were like, oh, we're going to change that immediately. And then within a day it was changed.
Wow.
And I thought, well, that's brilliant. Because, what we've done is we've identified a problem, we've figured out the solution, and now we've told everyone else. So, great, everybody wins. That's what it's about, So, I think, yes, we should absolutely... We all... Double Tap guys and the Tech Talk guys, we always have a laugh at all of these companies for various things. But truthfully, I actually often end my show by saying, I'm grateful. I'm really grateful to the hard work you put in. You're sitting there slogging your guts out in some room somewhere, coding away, trying to make this work. Probably very few people take notice. Well, we take notice. We blind people that you're doing this for, we take notice and we thank you for it. We salute you for it. So, yeah. So, well done to all of them, I say.
Especially Microsoft and you, Jenny Lee Fleury. We love you, Jenny Lee
Fleury. Yeah, she's brilliant. Yeah, interviewed her once. She's lovely. You should get her on. She's brilliant.
Jenny, it'd be all softball questions. Don't worry about that.
Oh, you don't listen. Don't worry about Jenny. She can handle herself.
Well, okay. Tell us. Okay. So, let's talk a little bit about Double Tap.
Okay.
What do you guys do over there?
I have no idea. So somebody said at some point while I was working at RNIB, the good and wonderful guys actually at Accessible Media Inc. AMI actually came across to Glasgow where our RNIB studios are, and we had a really nice conversation. And what happened was the RNIB were asked to provide and create a version of our Tech Talk show for AMI. And it was made for a year. And at the end of that year, AMI said, okay, we're not going to go down that route anymore. We're going to come to you, Stephen, because we'd like you to produce a show for us. So they kind of wanted me to go and do it. So I was like, okay, all right. So I gave it some thought, and I came up with this idea called Double Tap, which I think we all know why I called it Double Tap, but does everybody get that? Yeah? Everybody gets the Double Tap point?
I'm assuming it's iPhone related.
Yeah, of course it is. It's always Apple. But no,
I figured you always wanted to shoot somebody.
Well, that's the thing. I didn't know the zombie reference for a long time. and someone said, and I went, oh my God, what have I done? But no, although there's some truth there. But anyway, let's not go there. But yeah, so I came up with this idea and I thought, okay, we'll see what they think. And I thought we'd get a year. And they'd say, okay, that was a laugh, but, let's be serious now and let's do something else. And they kept coming back and saying, let's do another year, and let's do another year. And basically Double Tap is a bunch of guys, and hopefully soon more girls, because we want to get some women on the show, because we're all a bit of a sausage party at times, and it gets a bit... even I get annoyed at that.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
No idea what you're talking about.
No idea. But yeah, so I we basically get together and we get to talk about tech for an hour on the radio, and it's amazing. We get to talk about it with that accessibility viewpoint, which is key for us, because there's lots of tech shows and umpteen YouTube reviewers and podcasters talking all kinds of stuff, but very few talking about accessible technology. Obviously you guys, exceptions. But, there are very few, and actually, more importantly, there's very few good ones. You guys are in the good category for sure.
Oh, I like you. You can come back.
But no, seriously, there's very few, because some of them you listen to and you think, oh, these are terrible. And, the audio quality is not great, and it's not as great or well done, and you just think, eh. So, I think, and that's okay, that's fine, and everyone's got to start somewhere. But look, we're on the radio, we've got to make it sound good, so that's what we do. And having my radio background, bringing that has been an absolute joy for me, because I get back to doing what I love, which is talk radio, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm kind of bringing the radio aspect in with the technology and having a great fun with my good old buddy Sean Priest and Tim Schwartz.
Yeah, and so that's the Double Tap Canada podcast.
Yeah.
So, and that's available on AMI Audio as well, right?
That's right. So that's on AMI Audio. You can listen to that. You're going to ask me when, and I can never remember. It's terrible, isn't it? I can't even promote my own show because I don't know when it's on. No, I should know when it's on. It's Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. That's what I'm led to believe.
Right, and also available on all the podcast clients and web servers.
Yeah, that's right. I'm in my bed when it's on because it's it's like 1 a.m.
Well, what I find interesting, and I wanted to ask you this, and Rob will probably edit this out, but
Okay.
it's called Double Tap Canada, yet there's no Canadian hosts on the show.
Not yet. Well, that's because, you see, I think I'm like 1/400th Canadian, so I think that applies, doesn't it?
Do you have a girlfriend in Canada? That's usually the go-to.
I think my wife might have something to say about that. I was in Toronto last year, but I can't tell you what happened for legal reasons. But no, we did the show, and it was called Double Tap Canada partly because, and it's this very technical reason, right? This is going to be very boring, but it will explain it. It was called Double Tap Canada because when it was Tech Talk, they wanted to distinguish it from being the same show. They wanted it to be a Canadian show for Canada, right? So it wasn't going to be a British program made and sort of delivered overseas. It was actually made for the Canadian audience. So that was for that reason why it was given that name. But I think you'll probably find in the next few months, and I'm not preempting anything, but I think you'll probably find that word Canada disappears soon. As we get a bit more of an international view in it. But actually, truthfully, we're really working hard to get new voices through who can come through and are Canadian, because that's important because we're kind of broadcasting in Canada. So it'd be nice, I guess, for Canadians to hear their own accent from time to time.
Well,
or I could be wrong. I don't know. I hate hearing Scottish people, so,
Okay, well, let me ask you this. What of recent, say in the past year, what piece of tech has really got you excited?
Wow, that's a hard question. I guess for me, probably two answers to that. One is sort of more generally for everyone, but for me personally, it was my Focus 14 Braille display, which is a bit old tech, I guess. But don't get me wrong, it's 5th gen, it's decent, it's new, but it was. It did kind of blow me away at what it was capable of with an iPhone. And I had it for about 2-3 months before I actually ever used it because I didn't know what to do, and I just assumed it was going to be really complicated, and I thought, I'll never learn this. And I'd finished grade 1, I was starting on grade 2, and I've kind of still going through grade 2 at the moment because it's taking me forever with everything else I'm doing. So I'm trying to kind of shoehorn in time to do that and really nail that. But I've got grade 1 down, so I'm happy to use the iPhone with the Braille display on that. But when I hooked it up and realized very quickly how simple it was to use, especially with those navigation rockers on either side of the display that the Focus 14 has, it just makes it so much easier to navigate through your iPhone. I mean, the one thing I love about the iPhone is, what do I not love about it? But one thing in particular is the sort of, as I would call it, the list approach, which is that every single window you're on is a list. You just navigate through that list. Like we were saying earlier, this superfluous content that's all over the place on a computer screen because you've got such large real estate and you've got things going on all over the place. You don't have that with an iPhone as much. Yeah, you do have drop-down notifications or banner ads or whatever that pops up, but those are easy to deal with, and you can get to them, you can navigate to them, you can deal with them. Whereas, with a Windows PC or a Mac, it's a bit more complicated. But no, I love the display for that because I can really get into some serious work on it, and I feel I can navigate and deal with things quickly. My inbox gets cleared in the morning so much more quickly with using it than using anything else. So I guess that is one thing. I'm trying to think of something else that's really blown my mind because there's so many things that pass by my desk all the time, and I think, wow. I guess the other actually is the other thing that I would say is part of my setup on a day-to-day basis: my Braille display, my iPhone, and my Bose frames. That's probably the other piece of tech I would say is a bit of a wow moment because they work really well. They're really great, and I think for voiceover users or any screen reader user, it's a really great tool because you don't have things jammed in your ear all the time, which get sore, and you end up with ear problems, and it's all very horrible. So No, I love having those on because I can enjoy listening to my voice without it really grating on me. And also, just because, again, of my light sensitivity, I wear sunglasses all the time. So, you know what? It kind of makes sense to wear sunglasses all the time that happen to have speakers built in. So, yeah, those are my wows at the moment, I think.
Now those are the eyeglass frames that have are the speakers in the arms? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so they're not bone conduction, because a lot of people think that's what they are. So that's what I thought when I got them. But they're actually, as Bose calls it, down-firing speakers. So they fire the audio into your ear. Now, it does mean that at higher volumes, everybody else gets that sound fired into their ear as well, which may not be as much fun. But, working from home as I'm doing a lot now, obviously, as we all are, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference. So I can work away in relative peace, knowing that I'm not bothering anybody because I'm in my own room, and my wife is, next door working in her office and do what she's doing. I can, sit in here, get on with what I'm doing, and not worry so much about that noise. So, yeah, I like it. I kind of have privacy, but, open privacy, if that makes any sense at all.
How do you see haptics these days? Months ago, before sort of the world all went crazy, we were sort of had a lot of shows where we were talking about haptics and different new technologies that they were trying to pair haptics with to try to make some sort of mobility solution. What's your take on those?
Yeah, this is really interesting. We just talked about this on a recent Double Tap. In fact, this one that's going out this week, I think. And my excitement around haptics isn't really around the mobility field, although I get it because I can see that there have been benefits. I mean, technology like, for example, the WeWalk cane, which has got that kind of haptic feedback vibratory feedback, I guess, but it is, I guess, haptic to some degree. You've got that feedback coming through the cane while you walk. I don't know if I like that idea. I feel my cane gives me a lot of information as it is. I get a lot of real-world haptic feedback that I kind of want to get. So I don't know if I like the idea of something like that giving me more information than I need. I think sometimes you can have a bit of sensory overload going on. When I'm walking down the street, if I've got blind square on, I've got voiceover talking over it as well. I've got Apple Maps or Google Maps barking away instructions and the screen reading that as well. And then I've got all that, and meanwhile I've got a cane constantly telling me I'm going to walk into a hedge or a tree. And, all of this information's going in, and eventually I'm just going to walk into the hedge or the tree and possibly out in front of a bus because I have absolutely lost all sense of what I'm supposed to be doing because there's so much information being barked at me. So that worries me a little bit about too much information coming through. I think I actually would love to see, and this is slightly off topic for a second, but I'd love to see iPhone or Google as well, I guess, come up with a solution for walking mode. So instead of driving mode, where it kind of cuts all your notifications and puts your phone into Do Not Disturb, I kind of want walking mode that does the same, so that when I'm going down the street, the only voice I'm hearing is the voice of the sat-nav rather than the voice of voiceover as well on top of the sat-nav. So that's one thing I'd really like, and maybe that would help with something like a haptic cane, for example. But my interest in haptics goes a little bit further than that, because I think I've seen various prototypes over the years, one in particular, which was a Braille tablet that used haptic feedback so that when you run your fingers over the screen, the Braille would actually emerge from the screen haptically. And it was incredible. I mean, it wasn't perfect by any stretch, but it was an interesting idea. And that's an area that I think haptics could be really interesting in. Because, I mean, you think about it, you run your hand over a keyboard, or run a finger over a keyboard on the iPhone, it does feel like you're touching something. And if you can get that to, recreate the 6 dots in the various patterns for Braille, then you could have a really interesting product there. And that could be something that's mainstream. It could have a huge, widestream, mainstream appeal.
Yep.
So, that excites me. That really excites me.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I recall we've done several shows about touchscreen haptics and sort of the potential for them, and some of the. I think we actually talked to somebody in Europe that they were kind of working in that realm. trying to sort of develop something, but it might be that the technology isn't quite there yet to really make it both doable in terms of a consumer mainstream product that's in the right price point, or like the haptics would have to be so sort of fine-tuned for something like Braille to actually give give really good Braille. We might not quite be there yet, but I think you're right. I think that is probably something that has that mainstream / assistive technology applications that could really drive that forward in the coming years.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's a really exciting time for this because, I've often said that the only way you get these products to work is, if you can, and get them low cost, is if you make them mainstream. If you don't do that, if you continually live in the world of it has to be specialist, then it's going to cost thousands upon thousands of dollars for this to be made and therefore produced, and it will never really make anyone any money, and we'll all be out of pocket for trying to buy it. So nobody wins, really. Whereas if you can build it into a mainstream product, say a tablet, say an iPad or an Android tablet, that could be really interesting. And I see companies like Samsung, who I must admit I've not paid a lot of attention to, and I've certainly not spent a lot of time on the shows, but I'm really excited about what Samsung are up to, because they're doing a lot of work in this accessibility field. I mean, TVs have got accessibility in them, one of the first companies to do that. That's brilliant. You've got the tablets, which are often used by a lot of the specialist manufacturers, which gives me the argument to say, well, why can't we just get an app to download? Because that's essentially what it is. Why do I have to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on a Connect 12 from Humanware, desktop video magnifier, when I could just get an app and buy a Samsung tablet, get an S6 Lite for $600 or something. That would be okay, wouldn't it? So I think that we're getting to that point where that technology can clearly, the technology that the companies are making, like Samsung and Google and Apple with the iPad and all the rest, that they're making the right technology. But it obviously has to move to the next step with haptic, and I think it'll get there. I think it will, but I think you're right. It's early days.
So before we let you go, we didn't spend much time, if any, on Double Tap TV or on the Circle Media. Did you want to just kind of bring us up to date on Double Tap TV and the Circle Media?
Yeah, so Circles Media is essentially the company, which is the business that is where Double Tap Canada comes from, right? So that's where that lives. And Circles Media does lots of other work as well. I'm involved in creating accessible websites. I'm also involved in creating new content and exciting content online. I mean, you may not have tried out doubletap.online, which is our website, and really excited to develop that, and we're going to do a lot more. There's also a new project coming soon, which I'm hoping you guys might be involved in. So we'll say no more about that at the moment, but I'll happily come back on at some point and we can talk more about it once I can release the information. Double Tap TV. Now, Double Tap TV came along, and it was an interesting conversation, really, and I'm sure the guys at AMI won't mind me saying this, but at first I said no to the television show. I just said, no way, I can't do television. I'm an ugly guy, I'm Scottish, I'm fat, this is terrible. And they said, look, never mind that. Don't worry too much about that. And I also said, how on earth do you expect a blind guy to make a TV show? How's that going to work? And I know that's very defeatist and that's the wrong attitude, but it was my attitude. And I thought, I can't do this. I can't deliver a TV show every week. That would be insane. So then they put me in touch with this amazing guy called Mark Aflalo, who is Montreal-based, and he is just an absolute whiz. I mean, he can turn his hand to pretty much anything. And he had been producing a lot of TV shorts for AMI at that point. He'd been doing a lot of radio work. He does a lot of radio stuff and works on Sirius XM in Canada and all that. So he's knows his stuff and has been around for a long time. And he and I had a chat. We hit it off instantly. And I must say, at that point, it was at that stage, I said, right, you know what? I think I can do this. I feel better about it because I just couldn't commit to it before. I just didn't feel I was going to be comfortable in it. And when Mark came along, it just felt right. And we started the TV show last year. Started actually just at the end of last year. Actually, we had a bit of a run up to the end of the year, and it was very exciting. I mean, completely new to me, very different. And just weird because, like, I mean, most of the time I have no idea if I'm even looking at the camera, which is just hilarious. And you know, Mark will say, right, left a bit, right a bit, and there we are. Because I drift off when I'm talking. I just kind of my head just starts to drift. Bit like my wife's. She happens to her as well. When I'm talking, but yeah, it was good. It was really good fun, and I've had great fun doing it. And I can't say too much about what's going to happen from September, but I'm kind of hoping that, you know, we'll still be around on Double Tap TV next year for a new season. We'll wait to get the confirmation on that, but you know, it is an exciting time because this is something no one else is doing, especially on television and actually YouTube as well, which is something we're really developing and working on. So yeah, that's where Mark's company kind of fits into it all, because Mark's company and my company work together to create this this beast that is Double Tap TV. But I get to do the radio show as well, which is brilliant. And radio was my first love. It always was. And it will be my last. But I do like doing TV. I do. It is totally different, and I enjoy it. But yeah, radio was my... It's just easier on radio. You don't have to get dressed up for it.
Exactly. You don't have to wear pants.
Yeah, I'm all for that. Well, I don't... okay, maybe I shouldn't say this, but the great thing about the TV show is it's always shot from, you know, waist up.
That's true.
So I, you know, can get away with things on that, right? And that's all I'm saying, guys. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. Especially these days, I feel like all those news anchors that are working from home, none of them are wearing pants, let's be honest.
Well, I'll tell you, I've got a fantastic pair of Batman pants, and I wear those a lot. So you can think about that the next time if you're watching the show. You'll think, oh, he's wearing his Batman pants. How horrible. But no, it's great. And, you know, again, I love the opportunity to do it. And, you know, yeah, I never thought in my life this would be where I'd end up, because I had no idea where I'd end up when I started out. I mean, I thought I might do radio forever, and then I thought I might do news forever. So I'm now thinking I might do this forever. But I'm getting older now, so, you know, there's only so much forever left. But I'm enjoying this, and you know, that's half the battle, isn't it? It's about like you guys doing this, you know. It's just great fun.
Well, as somebody who's blind and you know, into podcasting, you know, I do want to say thank you to you, Sean, Tim, all the people at Double Tap Canada and the Double Tap TV AMI for the content you produce. It's entertaining, it's informative, and you guys are great. You guys make it fun. So, you know, thank you.
Oh, listen, we have an absolute blast. We get far more credit than we deserve for it. But, you know, I do love doing it with the guys. And Sean and Tim, you know, they've just been brilliant. And, you know, we're starting to see more people come through, like Jay Taylor, who's becoming a regular guest on the show. We had Shelley Brisbane on recently, you might know. She's amazing, so we're hoping to get her on more, and loads more people, and more Canadian voices. Hey, I personally think we should get some kind of get-together at some point with all of you guys and all of us. I think we should just all get together. Wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be fun.
We wouldn't get anything accomplished.
We never do.
If you've heard Double Tap, right? I mean, you know how it works.
Double. Wrong show. Absolutely, that'd be fun.
Yep, we're in. Count us in. We will bring our tequila.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll let you go, Stephen, but why don't you give us and our listeners the information as to where and how they can find you?
Yeah, plug away. Plug away, sir.
Okay, well, okay, so if you want to listen to the Tech Talk program, which is the RNIB podcast, that's done with myself and my good friend Robin Christopherson in the UK. That is found on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, basically. Just search for RNIB Tech Talk. Simple as that. And if you search for that, or even ask your Lady A, as I call her, then you can get it that way as well. Just ask her to play the podcast, RNIB Tech Talk. If you want to listen to Double Tap, in Canada on the radio. You can do that on AMI Audio, and that goes out, as I say, Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can also get it on our website, doubletap.online. There's regular updates to the podcast, plus lots of additional content on there as well. And you can also watch Double Tap TV Tuesdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on AMI TV. Again, all that is available on AMI's website. You can even download the AMI app in Canada as well, and you can watch all the shows to your heart's content. You can binge watch if you really want. Strongly encourage it, and have a go. And I've got to say to you guys, thank you so much for letting me come on and talk about this, because it means a lot, having the chance to promote the show and talk about it. And I know I always have a laugh and a carry on about the guys and what we do, but truthfully, it's an absolute joy, and being able to promote it's actually a real honor for me. And I know the guys were really excited about me coming on, because they were saying, we can get a chance to get on these podcasts, and we can on AT Banter, and we can talk. And it's like, because the show's, it's nice to talk about the show and talk about what it's doing, and I'm glad it's making a difference. That's the whole point of it. But we want to do it with having fun at the same time, and I'm glad that's coming across.
Well, we'll definitely love to get you back on the show, and maybe we'll get the three of you on the show.
Anytime.
Yeah, well, likewise. I'm sensing a very big get-together coming soon, so that would be brilliant. Let's do that.
Yeah, definitely.
I believe it's called synergy.
Oh, I hate that word. That's
Oh, me
terrible.
too. I hate that word too.
Oh, it's a business word. It's just terrible.
I know. Sorry, I was just trying to trigger Steve. It worked.
Oh, God.
Worked.
With the word accessible, so frequently, it's such a generic term.
Ooh,
Yeah, exactly. I know.
synergy. I just made a new word.
Synergy.
Synergy.
There's a new show.
There you go.
I got to go trademark that now.
Yeah.
Well, hey, listen. Thanks again so much for talking with us. It was a joy to have you on. Anytime you want to come on, sir, you just let us know, and I won't say the word synergy.
You just said it.
Only on that
Just
deal.
said it.
Oh, I'm sorry. It slipped there.
Did use that word, yeah. No, that's great, guys. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, sir. Take care. Have a good rest of your evening.
Take
Okay.
care, guys. Thanks
Take
a lot.
care.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Always a good guy. That was fun.
Steve, I don't know if you guys have listened to any of the Double Tap Canada podcasts, but they're fun. They're good guys.
Well, I will now. Hey, Ryan,
Rob,
where can people find us?
they can find us online at atbanter.com.
They can also drop us an email if they so desire, especially if your name is Jenny Lee Fleury and you want to email us to tell us that you've accepted our offer to come on the podcast. That's cowbell@atbanter.com.
Little late on the cowbell there.
Yeah, it's okay. I didn't leave him space. I kind of.
But did you know you can also find us on the social media feeds? You can find us on the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagrams. We're out there.
Well, then that is going to about do it for us this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. A big, big thank you to Stephen Scott, a.k.a. Steve 2000. And we will see everybody next week.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canastech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com. Music provided by bensound.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.